Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Class Sec 5 Personal and Social Awareness. And this week, we are going to talk about sexuality. And we have covered some topics about sexuality. I believe that every one of you have read the textbook for Chapter 9. And we can start the lecture right now. So, first of all, I would like to talk about what does sex do to people. So here are some potential benefits for sex. So people may get these benefits if they have sex. First of all, there can be benefit about physical health or physical well-being. They may be physically well if they have sex regularly. And also, there another benefit is sexual psycho psychological well-being. Uh, this potential may come from the satisfaction, the feeling of satisfaction from the sexual intercourse. People, because that's the natural tendency for a individual to have the desire to have sex with the another individual, and this desire reflects their true selves. So if they control themselves not to express this desire, it may cause some psychological problems. But if they can express this kind of desire, they can become their true selves. Their psychological well-being or emotional well-being can be improved. Of course, sex may bring joy and pleasure during the sexual intercourse. And also, sex is often related to intimacy. It doesn't mean that sex has to bring or must bring intimacy. Sometimes there's no intimacy in the sexual intercourse, or there's no intimacy between the two individuals who have sex. But sex is often related to intimacy because sex can help us to build up, to increase intimacy between the two individuals who have sex with each other. And also, sex is also a way of expressing the love. So there are different ways of expressing love, and one of the approaches to express love is through sex. So the boyfriends and the girlfriends, the people who are in romantic relationships or the people in the marriage can express love to the other with sex. So here are the potential benefits of having sex, and there can be other benefits as well. And there can be potential harms that sex brings to us. Sex can be a way to control over others. So the function to control over others is of sex is similar to the way to control over others through love. So in the chapter about love, we have talked about the conditional love can be a way to control over the other person, and this person can claim that, oh, I love you, but only if you have done something, only if you do not do something, only if you are like this, I will love you. Otherwise, I will not give you the love. So actually, it's not the real love. It's just a way of control the other person. And sex is also like a it functions a similar way. So one person may say, "Oh, if you do this, if you are like this, if you do not do this, I will have sex with you. Otherwise, I will not have sex with you." So this time, sex becomes a way to control that person instead of a situation where these two people really want to have sex no matter what. So if sex becomes a way of controlling over others, it brings harm to other people. And also, after having sex or thinking about sex or even having a sexual desire, uh, can be can bring guilty, can bring guilt or shame or anxiety. So some people just feel guilty when they think about sex or they have sex with a person they are not supposed to have sex with. Okay, so this kind of negative emotions can be there if they think that their behaviors or their thoughts are wrong. And there can be more harms that sex brings to us. So these are the benefits and potential harms of sex. And the next topic I would like to talk about the communication about sex, how people communicate, how people talk about sex in their daily lives. So when they talk about sex, it's a way to increase the mutual empathy. So the mutual empathy defined by Cooks and Bauer is awareness that each partner in the sexual relationship cares for the other and knows that this care can be reciprocated. Means that oh, I care about you, and I know that you also care about me in return. And the other person knows that I care about this person, and this person knows that I will care about that person. That's mutual empathy. So the sexuality or sexual relationships or sexuality that is healthy involves relationships beyond sex. So in the healthy sexual relationship, there is not only just the sex, not only the activity of sex, the sexual intercourse, but there's other elements like relationships. There is like a interpersonal relationship involved in healthy sexuality, and also sex can bring the satisfaction in a certain kind of relationship. Sex has there are some cultural differences about talking about sex or interacting about sex or communication about sex. In a lot of cultures in the world, topics about sex are not allowed. People usually don't talk about sex in their daily lives in a lot of cultures, especially the cultures that are more conservative, like the cultures in a lot of the African tribes or in the Middle East or in East Asia or other cultures that are more conservative. They do not really talk about sex topics because the culture defines the social norm that if they talk about sex, it's something shameful or guilty. So it's shameful to talk about sex. It's reluctant to talk about sex in the daily life with other people. So some cultures are like that, but in some other cultures, people are pretty open to communication about sex. They can openly and non-reluctantly talk about sex with their family members or with other people. I know that the culture in Netherlands and all the culture in Scandinavia or the culture in uh, Northern Europe. So the social atmosphere in those countries are really open. So they can talk about a lot of things. Sexual topics are not a taboo or not something that are shameful to them. They can talk about the sex with their kids, and their kids can talk about sex with their parents. That's not a problem. So that kind of a culture is very open. So there are some cultural differences, and in different cultures, people follow different cultural norms, and if especially communication sex is very different in different kinds of cultures. And that's communication about sex. And another topic is sexual values or the values about sex. The key points from the textbook is that sexual behavior is better to be consistent with the values or the value system that one holds. What people do is congruent with what they believe. That's the ideal situation. That's an ideal circumstance. So there is self-congruence involved in here. So what you do is consistent or congruent with what you believe, and what you believe leads to what you do, and what you do reflects what you believe. That's called congruence. And about sex, it's the same thing. How do you have sexual behavior is consistent with how you think about sex, and how you think about sex leads to how you behave in the sexual behavior. That's ideal. So the behavior and the belief are congruent with each other or consistent with each other. What if they are not consistent? What if what you believe is not consistent with what you do? There will result some problems, such as cognitive dissonance. So I think that you have learned about what a cognitive dissonance is in the introduction to psychology class, in the second one class. So cognitive dissonance is a feeling of discomfort resulting from the situation that the belief is not consistent with the behavior. We have done something that is not consistent with what you believe. You're not feeling comfortable psychologically. That's cognitive dissonance because what you think, what you believe is different from what you have done. So when you believe something about sex and that is not consistent with what you have done with in the sexual behavior, that may result in cognitive dissonance as well. So the best way to do it is that what you have done or what you do is consistent or congruent with what you believe. If you have some kind of values about sex and just behave based on those values, you don't have to violate these values when you behave. Otherwise, will result in a lot of psychological discomfort in your mind. So here are some authors' suggestions about the congruence between values and the behaviors. So when you meet or when you want to have engage in sexual behaviors, please think of these following questions in the romantic or adult relationship. The question can be, do I really want to pursue a sexual relationship with this person at this time? So that's the question you need to think about. because that's the self-reflection can help you to know about yourself, to know what your value system is, to know your true heart is. So if your true feeling tells you that, oh, I do not really want to have a pursue, I do not really want to have a sexual relationship with this guy or with this woman at this time, you don't have to. You can stop and you can continue. That's you have a choice. You can have a choice based on your own values. And the second question can be, what are the possible emotional consequences of getting sexually involved? So you can think about the consequences before you engage in the sexual behavior. And the third question can be, what are my commitments? What are you committed to? And the fourth question can be, how congruent is my decision with my values? So that asks a question about congruence between values and behaviors. So if you think that, oh, this is not congruent, this decision is not congruent with my values, you can stop. And if you think that, oh, this decision is indeed congruent with my values, you can continue. You can choose to do it. Can choose to engage. So these are probably not all of them, but at least part of the questions that you can think of when you need to make a decision, or when you need to choose whether engage or not in a sexual relationship, or when you need to think about a adult relationship, or when you need to think about sexual relationship with other people. And another concept about sexual value is called sexual abstinence. So sexual abstinence means refers to the actions or behaviors that refrain themselves from sexual intercourse until they enter a committed relationship. So that means that people will not have any sexual behaviors or any sexual intercourse with other people until they can have a committed relationship with that person. So that's often seen in followers of Christianity, because the doctrines or the teachings of Christianity reflect the values that people cannot have sexual relationships or have sexual intercourses with people outside of the marriage relationship. So they can only have sexual relationships with people who are in the marriage. It means that you can only have sex with your husband or wife. So if you are not you are not married with that person, you cannot have sex with that person. So that's sexual abstinence. But in some other cultures, that Christianity is not popular, also have that kind of norm, social norm. In a lot of cultures that are conservative, like in some cultures that people do not talk about sex, oftentimes people do not have sexual intercourse with people outside the marriage as well, because they're more conservative about the sexual relationships with other people. They do not want to just have sex intercourses with any people they do not have a really strong relationship with. So in a lot of cultures, for a lot of people with religious beliefs or other kind of reasons, they have sexual abstinence. They do not want to have sexual intercourse with people that they do not have the committed relationships with. And also the second point that is worth mentioning is that the activities, the standards of what activities the are considered to be sexual intercourse can be different across people. So people may think, oh, this activity is considered to be sexual intercourse, or that activity may not be the sexual intercourse. For example, masturbation is debatable. So some people may think, oh, masturbation is a sexual activity, is a sexual intercourse. And some people may think that, oh, masturbation is just having sex with self. It's not a sexual intercourse, actually. So the standards are varying across different people. So sexual abstinence, the performing the decision to have sexual abstinence also reflects the sexual values of a specific individual. So when you think about when you decide to have sexual abstinence or not, please reflect your sexual values. Please reflect your value system, whether that is consistent with your value system. And the next topic is about the misconceptions or misbeliefs about the sex. And the first thing is that some misconception about sex may bring guilt over sex. People may have a feeling of guilt because they have sex with other people, or they just have a thought of the sexuality. Sometimes some people feel guilty when they have sexual feelings toward women because that is not consistent with their own values. In their value system, they may think that, oh, they cannot have any thoughts about sexual desire. They cannot consider a specific woman or man as a image that they have sexual feelings or they have sexual fantasy with. So that's why they feel guilty. But these values may be unrealistic because that's the natural tendency for human beings. So for human beings, we have a lot of the physical desires, like when we are hungry, we want to eat. That's the desire for food, desire for nutrition. When we are thirsty, we want to drink. That's also a natural tendency. That's a natural desire that we have that helps survival in the physical world, in the natural environment. And the sex is also a very natural desire that we all have. So for heterosexuals, we have sexual feelings toward the sex with the other side. So men have sexual feelings toward women. Women have sexual feelings toward men. And for homosexuals, they have sexual feelings toward the same sex. And also they're also bisexual. They have sexual feelings toward both sex. That's very natural. So if you believe that you cannot have any thoughts or feelings of sex toward any people, that may be more constrict. That can be more strict. That can be too strict to yourself. So those values may be unrealistic. And another kind of guilt is that some people feel guilty over the masturbation. So masturbation, I just talked about, it's just self-stimulation of their own genitals. for sexual pleasure. So they do not have another person they can have sex with. So they stimulate their own genitals and or sexual organs so that they can also have sexual pleasure by masturbation. So they comfort themselves. So some people feel guilty over masturbation because they think that shouldn't have masturbation. They believe that the masturbation damages physical health, and the masturbation brings some negative consequences of physical health or some negative consequences of psychological health. Uh, I should say that it may bring some negative consequences of physical and psychological health, but it's the moderated level of masturbation is okay. So if you masturbate too much, that may bring some negative consequences. But if you like masturbate to a moderate level, I think that's okay. And nowadays, masturbation is viewed as normal. It's not considered to be a taboo or something that people shouldn't do. And there can be other misconceptions about sex as well. For example, the belief that if I allow myself to become sexual or have sex with others or thinking about sexual feelings, I will get into trouble. So that's something that mislead themselves. So you don't have to think about in the way that having sex or becoming sexual will lead to troubles. So another statement about misconception about sex is that if I'm sexually attracted to another person, I won't be able to refrain from acting on it. Uh, that's a misconception, I think. People have self control. So you don't have to think that what you think must lead to what you do. You because you have sexual control, you have you know about the social norm, you know how to act in the social interactions. So so for the people who have this kind of belief, my suggestion is that you can have more self confidence in yourself. You can control yourself for sure. Uh, Another misconception is that my partner should know what I need intuitively without my asking. That kind of belief is similar to the belief in a romantic relationship or in the uh, intimate relationship. So people cannot know each other that intuitively. So they need a communication. They need an open communication. They need to talk about each other's feelings. So it's not realistic to think about, oh, the other person will know my feelings without talking, without the open communication. That's not possible because we cannot know each other's minds without telling each other's feelings. We cannot read minds. People, it's not mind reading is not possible. We cannot just read the other's mind without asking what they think about. So you need to tell your partner what you think about and what you feel about, and your partner need to tell you what he or she thinks about or feels about. being attracted to someone of the same sex is abnormal. That's a talk about homosexuality and heterosexuality. So that's so nowadays it's homosexuality is more accepted. Is becomes a normal phenomenon among people in the society because the statistics tell us that no matter in what country, in every country of the world, there are at least 5% of the population is homosexual. So at least 5%. So there can be more higher than the 5%. There can be 10%, 5 to 10% of the people in every country, in any society, are homosexual. So being attracted to the same sex is normal, is considered to be normal in nowadays. And here's a little story about attitude toward homosexuality. So in 1960s and 1970s in the United States, homosexuality was considered to be a psychological disorder. They thought at that age that people who love this who are attracted to the same-sex people were psychological ill or have some kind of a sickness in their mind. So they try to develop a lot of therapies to cure the homosexual people. Martin Seligman, the founder of positive psychology, was one of them. So when he was young, in 1960s and in 1970s, he even published some papers about the therapies that he developed to cure homosexuality, and claimed that his therapies were successful to some degree, and here are some results showing that this kind of a therapy was successful. But later they realized that homosexuality is just a normal phenomenon for human beings. Just that there is a certain percentage of the population in the society is just homosexual. They don't have any like psychological illness or psychological disorders. It's just a natural phenomenon. And a lot of evidence shows that homosexuality comes from the genes, comes from the genetic makeups. They are born to be homosexual. A part of the population, they are born to be homosexual, and there is some other evidence showing that it can be social phenomena in some kind of the social environment. People are more likely to be attracted by someone of the same sex, but in some other social environments, they're more likely to be attracted to someone of the different sex. So there can be the natural phenomenon can be the social phenomenon. So I'm not sure it's a natural phenomenon or social phenomenon, but it exists in a society, and also it's normal. So people with homosexuality, they do not have any kind of psychological disorders. So that becomes a misconception about sex. And another one can be the more physically attractive a person is, the more sexually exciting he or she is. It's not true. I don't see any kind of a relationship between physical attractiveness and sexual excitement. So no matter how attractive a person is, That person can be really sexually exciting or not sexually exciting at all. There are no relationships between two things. With the passage of time, sexual relationships are bound to lose a sense of excitement. May not be true, may be true, but it's not necessary to be true. Maybe when time goes by, there is still a sense of excitement in the sexual relationship. Um, a lot of people may think that, oh, for the couples that have a very long time of marriage, they may lose interest in each other. It may not be true. There may be some other reasons that made them lose interest in each other, not the sexual relationship. They may even still have a really strong sense of excitement when they have a sexual intercourse, but not because even let me say this once again. So they may even have a really strong sense of excitement over many years of marriage, even though they break out emotionally, even though they have other kinds of problems in their marriage. They lose interest in each other. They do not want to live each other with each other. They want to divorce, not because they lose the sense of excitement in the sexual relationship, but because of other relationships in the marriage. Okay, these are the misconceptions about sex. There can be other misconceptions about sex as well, and these misconceptions may bring cognitive dissonance, may bring some psychological and emotional problems. So it's consistent with the injunctions. So in week 3, we talk about injunctions. A lot of injunctions in our mind. There are misconceptions. They may be wrong, and these injunctions continue to exist in our mind and continue to influence our decisions and influence our emotions in our daily life. And they may not be right, and then oftentimes they may be wrong, and they may not reflect the real life. So when we think about sex, we need to have a self-reflection about these beliefs about sex. We can think of that if this beliefs reflect the truth, reflect the real life or not. Otherwise, they become the misconception. They become injunctions in our mind. And next topic is about sex and intimacy. So here's a question for you to think about before talking about sex and intimacy. Do you think that the sexual relationship need intimacy? So you can think about this question and write down your answer on your notebook, and you can talk about your thoughts with yourself or anybody you can find right now. You can pause the video right now and think about the question. Does the sexual relationship need intimacy? So what is intimacy? It's a feeling. It's a deep level of caring for another person. It's not only a feeling. It's also a action. It's also a thought. It's everything. It includes a feeling, a thought, and action. It's caring for another person. It's a sometimes we say, oh, we care about this person. It's intimacy. but intimacy is really deep. It's a deep level of caring for a person. So that's intimacy. So if we have intimate relationships with each other, that means that we care for each other deeply. How intimate we are, it reflects how deep the caring is for each other. Generally speaking, people value love and affection in sexual relationships. Generally, if they have a stable and committed sexual relationships, they want to love each other. They want to have a affective or emotional intimacy. They have the emotions. They have intimacy toward each other. But sometimes people may have sex without love. They may just hook up with somebody in the bar, hook up somebody in the pub, and they have sex afterwards, and there is no love. And the other day they just leave, and they do not know each other really. There can be sex without love, but um, on the other hand, a lot of the intimate relationships do not involve sex. So the relationships between friends, the relationships between family members, they do not have sexual desires. They do not have anything about sex, but they also have intimacy. So only the romantic relationship, only the relationship between husband and wife involve sex, and there's also intimacy. But other kinds of relationships do not involve sex, but they also have intimacy in the relationships. So that's the relationship between sex and love. Yeah, that's the intimacy. So sex is a way to increase intimacy, to increase the care for each other. Because through sex, through sexual behaviors, we can express ourselves, we can express our desires, we can take care of the other's need for sex. So that's why it can be a way to increase intimacy with each other in the romantic relationship. Another topic I want to talk about is hookup. That's a social phenomenon nowadays. So that's sexual behavior or sexually intimate behavior without a commitment, without a emotional commitment. They are not committed to form a certain kind of a sexual relationship or intimate relationship, but they have sex. They have some sexually intimate behaviors. That's called hookup. Similar term to hookup nowadays is FWB, or the friends with benefits. So they have sexual behaviors with friends. They're friends, but they have sex. So that kind of relationship is not like a romantic relationship or marriage. They're just friends. They do not have. They have intimacy between each other, but that kind of intimacy, that kind of love, is friendship. Is not like a romantic relationship, but they have sex with each other. So I think it's also a kind of a hookup. So here are some benefits and negative consequences of hookup, or pros and cons of hookup. Hookup can be beneficial for people. That's why they engage in hookups. But there can be some other negative consequences following hookup. So the pros can be that they may have potential for the sexual behavior, the sexual pleasure. They want to have pleasure. They want to be happy, so they hook up other people, so they can have they can have the sexual pleasure from the hookup behaviors. And also they can sleep with a high number of individuals, have a lot of pleasure. We can have a lot of diversity, the feeling of freshness. They sleep with different people. So that's the benefits of hookup, and it can be more benefits. And the cons and the negative consequences, there are a number of them. There's a possibility that one person gets hurt emotionally and psychologically if that person desires the long-term committed relationship, but the other does not want to have that kind of a long-term and a committed relationship. So that one gets hurt. The one who wants the relationship gets hurt because she or he expect to have a relationship, but it's not the case. That's a possibility. And another negative consequence can be that those people who hook up, they themselves have other relationships that are committed. They may have long-term romantic relationships with their girlfriends or boyfriends, with their husbands or wives. And the sexual intimacy from this kind of relationships can be decreased, can be less. It means that the hookup may damage the sexual relationships in this kind of a committed relationships. And also, with more and more hookup, people may be less open and less honest in the communication with the people they hook up with, or with the people they are in the romantic or sexual relationships with. Yeah, there can be more negative consequences of hookup. So there are pros and cons of hookup. And then the next question is why people have more and more hookup recently in a modern society. So you know that in ancient times or in the history, there's really less hookup, or they didn't have the chance to hook up with other people. But in the modern society, after 1980s, there is more and more hookup. So what are the social factors, the societal factors that contribute to that social phenomenon? And there can be a number of them. So first of all, young people get married late. In history, people generally got married really early. Like even they were just teenagers, they got married. They had children when they was in 90 years old or 80 years old or 70 years old. So they didn't really have the time to hook up with other people because they get married really early. They have children really early. They either raise their children, raise the family, taking care of the family. So there's a lot of other things to do for them in a really young age. But nowadays, young people get married really late, like 30 years old, 35 years old. So there's more time for them to hook up with other people. And also they may have the desire, but they do not have a long-term romantic relationship yet, so they decide to hook up. And also they have a belief or feeling that they cannot involve in any kind of serious relationships with other people until they can live independently. Yeah, so before they can live independently, before they can raise themselves, before they can raise the family, they cannot involve any kind of romantic relationships. They can get married. They cannot get married. They cannot find a girlfriend or boyfriend. So that so they decide to hook up. And another reason can be that they do not have a desire for a romantic relationship. They do not want to have that relationship, or they do not have enough time. They are too busy. They work too much. They work for too long time. They do not have the chance to uh, build up the intimacy with the sexual partner or with the person, with a significant other. They do not have the time. They do not have the desire. They do not have the energy to build such a relationship. So they decide to do it quickly. They decide to hook up, just sleep with the person, have a sexual pleasure without any kind of relationship. That's good for them. And also another reason can be their attitudes about sex is more flexible or relaxed. So they do not care too much about commitment, or they do not really care about the norms for having sex. So they decide to hook up. And also there's more online porns or pornography available. So they may be stimulated by this online materials, online pornographies. So they decide to hook up. So these are the societal factors that lead to phenomenon that young people more and more engage in hookup instead of the committed long-term relationship. So what do you think? What do you feel? So what kind of reasons that make people that you know to hook up, or what kind of factors made people who you heard of hook up more and more? And here's the end of the lecture, and here are some key points to know about for this week. So first of all, we need to know about mutual empathy, and we need to know what mutual empathy is, and the relationship between mutual empathy and sex. And we need to know some content about sexual values, and it's important that sexual values are better to be consistent with the sexual behaviors. Otherwise, it will result in cognitive dissonance or other negative consequences. And then also the third thing to know about is intimacy, the relationship between sex and intimacy, and what sex do to the intimacy. And the last topic we need to know about is hookup. What is hookup, and the pros and cons of hookup, and the reasons for why there is more and more hookup in the society. And also, there's one thing that is missing just now. So you also need to know some misconceptions about sex, such as the guilt over sex because of masturbation, because the fact that they have sexual feelings towards some other people, or other kind of misconceptions. So here are all the key points to know about for this week. And also here's a journal assignment for this week about sex. So it's journal 9. You can find it in the module. And here are 4 questions that you need to answer in the journal. So you can reflect, do some kind of self-reflection, and answer the following questions. So first of 2 questions are about the sexual values. The first question is, what values about sexual behavior do you have? You can talk about 1 value, or 2 values, or 3 such values. At most 3 values. And the second question is, by far, to what degree your behavior has been consistent with the values that you hold. And the third and fourth questions are about concerns and negative emotions of sex. The third question is, what concerns about sexuality have you had by this week? So by this week in your history of life, what concerns about sexuality do you have or have you had? You can talk about 1, 2, or 3 concerns. At most 3 concerns. And the last question is, how does this week's lecture help you resolve these concerns that you have? And here are the criteria rubrics for Journal 9. So you can see that each question is 3 points. So you need to answer each question clearly. And I think that's all for this week. And hope that you have a good week, and see you next week.